I want some of your brown sugar. I want some of your brown sugar.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. This is Brownsugar Commentary, and I'm your girl, Kayla. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe for more videos about Black entertainment, Black womanhood, and whatever heck else I feel like talking about this week. All right, let's get right into it. So, as we know, we are currently in Black History Month. You know, it's great to be Black. It's great to be Black.
I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all.
And I felt like what better way to, start the Black History Month content than to discuss Black trauma films and what is a Black trauma film and why are people tired of it and all that kind of stuff like that. Because it seems that every Black History Month, there's a discourse that happens, especially because you see a lot of, streaming services like a Netflix or Hulu come out with stuff and they're like celebrating Black voices. And the movies that are like, that you can choose are like The Help and Fruitvale Station, or like Queen and Slim or something like that. Like you get those three choices, or maybe like a Selma might be up in there. And it's just like, damn, like that's all we got? Just sadness? Like, you know what I mean? And so people have the conversation about, we're tired of the Black trauma films. And then people will make lists and they'll be like, okay, so here are some Black movies you can enjoy that don't involve Black trauma. And you have people challenging that because they're like, but wait, this film technically has trauma in it. So what exactly are you saying? And so that's why it got me thinking like, okay, I think I can do something with this. Like, let's really discuss what is Black trauma and why are people so confused and what's the issue here, right? So first things first, I think we need to really decipher between what is Black trauma and what is trauma porn, because I think people tend to intertwine those two things and they're not the same thing. Because a Black trauma film would just mean that, or what I assume it means is just it's a Black film that a character goes through something traumatic, like traumatic things are happening. And and for trauma porn, I have an official definition, because we love definitions over here. It defines trauma porn as any type of media, be it written, photographed, or filmed, which exploits traumatic elements of adversity to generate buzz, notoriety, or social media attention. So I think often these two things get interwoven with each other because America is hard. And just like anybody else, we want to watch movies and have a good time. We want to escape reality. We don't really want to be so much focused on real life. And the reality of it is opportunities for Black writers and filmmakers in Hollywood. While we do see a lot of strides, like I feel like this is the most Black filmmakers we see in a while. You have Ava DuVernay, Ryan Coogler. You can even throw Mr. Tyler up in there, or Lee Daniels, Lena Waithe. There's more, but those are just the names that I know off of the top of my head, and those that have probably the most popular stuff. But if you're a film person, you probably know more than I do. But you know what I'm saying? Like the fact that I can name you at least 5 people that are either writers and or filmmakers, that shows you that changes are happening. But even with those people, it's still, we all know that just because they're Black, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. And sometimes, the movies that they're making, while maybe heart could be in the right place, the messaging could be a bit misconstrued, or it's not giving what they think it's giving. And y'all already know I'm talking about Mr. Tyler, okay? One of my most popular videos on my channel is me dragging Tyler Perry. And it's not because I hate Tyler Perry or want Tyler Perry to not succeed. I just feel that his work is so much, to me, a lot of his movies to me are Black trauma movies. But like, it's like, and when I say that, I mean a lot of it is just kind of just focusing on the fact that, okay, Black women go through stuff and there's no real solution other than, Jesus and a light-skinned man. Like, it's not really doing anything. It's just showing what Black women going through hardship just to say, you're a strong Black woman, you'll get through it. But it's not really offering us any solution. It's not really you know, whatever. I guess you can say it's more entertaining than some other traumatic films, but it's not really doing what you think it's doing. Or you have Alina Waif, who made A Queen and Slim. And y'all know I always like to bring this film up when it comes to trauma porn, but it's because that film, while Lena may have had the best intentions, and while I looked up, you know, interviews to figure out what was her purpose for creating the film, and she was talking about, one of her quotes was something like, oh, I want the people after they watch this film to feel like they got a warm hug. And when I watched the film, despite knowing exactly how the plot was gonna go, I could not go to sleep that night when I watched the film. I was very much shaken and scared and full of anxiety because it wasn't doing what she thought it was doing. Like, beautiful gowns, gorgeous gowns, but it was just watching these two Black folks eventually just get brutally murdered by the police. And last year, I made a video talking about why I don't like cop films. And I think my issue with cop films is what people have with Black trauma films. And I think, you know, like I said, to me, more than anything else, the past couple of years has been this oversaturation of these Black people dealing with racism at the hands of the police, Black people dying at the hands of police, all of that. And I mean, I do believe it just reflects what's happening in real life. We see a lot of, well, obviously Black people have always been dying at the hands of police, but now we see it on an even grander scale because we have social media and camera phones. And so now we can put, you know, we find out about stuff so quickly, and, you know, there's a lot of momentum being gained, but obviously no real solutions are being had at the end of the day. And so why I don't like cop films, to summarize that video in a nutshell, but if you haven't watched it, check it out. But to summarize that video in a nutshell, it was basically that the reason why I don't like cop films is because more often than not, cop films, like I said, why I feel the aim is to either educate or evoke some type of emotion out of Black folks or non-Black folks to do some, you know, take a course of action. All it really does is, one, most of them don't know how to pick a side. It's usually like, oh yeah, cops are bad, but there are a couple of good ones in there. They're just kind of like stuck in a corrupt system or whatever. Or it's just like, cops suck, Black people are gonna die, nothing you can do about it. Like, they don't get held accountable for it. They get off scotch-free, tough. Like, that is one of the two ways that happen or they're like, you know, we just gotta fight the system and just keep fighting. And it's like, once again, I get the sentiments, but all it really does is just tell us what we already know. And it doesn't really do anything. And to be honest, when it comes to police and Black folks in America, I don't really know if there's much we can really do. Like, not to be pessimistic and let y'all down on this Black History Month, but it's like, unless we basically dismantle the police and the, you know, judicial system as we know it, there's nothing we can do. The system was built on oppressing Black people. And white people, for the most part, are not going to try to fix it. They're going to make excuses and say, well, let's try to reform. But like I said, because it was built on the principle of white supremacy and racism, there's no reforming. You just have to get rid of it entirely. And I don't think any, you know, government official or any president is going to want to do that because it's not in their benefit. And they're not radical enough to have those views. So what is the point of we having this movie? Like, what is the movie about? Like I said, you watch these movies and all you do is just get more enraged, or you're feeling upset, like, and hopeless because you're like, what the heck are we going to do about it? You know what I mean? And so that's why I said I don't like police films at all, because I just feel like they don't do anything. And I think all this oversaturation of like these police brutality storylines on television and in movies has a lot of people like burnt out and tired, because like I said, Black people just want to have fun. They want to watch a movie that they can get engaged in and enjoy it. And it's like, you can do like the race relations thing, but like, it gotta be interesting. That's why people, I think, liked Jordan Peele so much when he stepped onto the scene, because here he was making a movie that was talking about kind of like, you know, Get Out. And you were watching this film and it was like this interracial couple, and, you know, everything seemed so promising, and like her parents were not racist, because we've seen the movies with the Black partner with the white partner and the parent, like, you know, Guess Who or something like that, like, or Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. We've seen that story before, but we've never seen like a white liberal being the villain, like, because more often than not, white liberals they try to position themselves as not being racist and championing for Black people. Like, that's their whole thing. And so it was very interesting to see that they were technically, you know, just as bad as the conservative ones. And so it was interesting. It kept you on the edge of your seat, but you didn't feel traumatized. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was horror, it was realistic, but it wasn't trying to get that shock value out of you. But like I think I said, like, a lot of these movies, they want to have those viral scenes. They want to have that oh, aha moment, but there's really no care behind it. They're just like, oh, I just want to get people in seats. I just want to have something crazy going on, but what is the point? And so that's why I was like, you know, movies like a Get Out or even Us was refreshing because they were realistic enough, but not to the point where you felt truly scared, if that makes any sense, or truly like anxious about any of this stuff. And so, like I said, these lists come out and you see something like, you know, like, it was funny because, you know, Twitter's going to pick something apart, but there is a list of these movies, and one of the movies being Poetic Justice. And people were like, well, technically this is a Black trauma film in the sense that literally within the first 5 minutes of the film, Justice's boyfriend gets shot in the head right in front of her. Like, what? They said Set It Off was a movie that was like a feel-good not black trauma film. And I was like, one, Jada Pinkett Smith's character's brother gets killed by the police. And also we see 3 Black women get killed gruesomely by the police. Like, especially, who can forget Cleo's, you know, thing. And yes, it was like, it was shown in a way that wasn't thing, but it was a still trauma happened in that film. But anyway, I was talking about like a movie like Dope, and they were like, oh, this movie is great because there's no drug dealing in this movie. It's all positive. And I'm like, not really. I mean, the main character sells drugs in the movie. That's the point of the movie. He's this nerd, and he's so, like, you know, trying to escape his circumstances, trying to get into an Ivy League school. It still ends up getting sucked into, you know, circumstances of his environment, and still has to sell drugs to even get, and like, even I think the person that he gets the recommendation from was like a drug dealer, like, technically. So I think that movie was very forgettable. I'm so sorry about it. And I like me some Shameik more, like, not in real life because he says some very stupid stuff, but in terms of acting, I told y'all this before, like, he is very good, but it wasn't giving. Like, a lot of people talk about how underrated the movie was. I'm like, it was not. It was hyped as hell, and it was very underwhelming. And there's no dark-skinned women in the cast, so 2 thumbs down for me. But that's an aside. But I think, like I said, people think it's very hard to depict Black life, and really just life in general, but definitely Black life, without evading trauma. Like, it's hard. It's hard to make a realistic movie or a movie that's talking about Black life and you cannot talk about trauma at all. And like I said, I don't think the problem is trauma. I think the problem is trauma porn. Like, I think the problem is when you have an excess of trauma to the point where we don't even know what the heck why are we seeing this? Like I told you before, I think everything in a film has to serve some kind of purpose. Like I said, you could have a film with no plot whatsoever, right? There's not really necessarily a linear plot going on, but things that are happening for some greater purpose. There just can't be, okay, this character gets killed in this grotesque way. Like I said, it's trauma porn when stuff is happening, especially grotesque, like super traumatic things that really don't serve a purpose, just this for craps and giggles, or to get that shock value. As I said in the definition of what trauma porn is, it's just like an excess of trauma to the point where what is truly the rhyme or reason that this is happening. Once, like, to bring up Mr. Tyler again, the movie For Color Girls, right? What was the movie supposed to be about? Sisterhood, being a Black woman. And it's like, yeah, you can argue and say that that's a thing, but literally every Black woman in this movie goes through something, the most extreme version of every trauma you could ever think of. You have the nice, you know, dance instructor who gets brutally raped by this nice guy that she just decides to go on a date with after he asked her for like millions and millions of months, or months and months and months. And then she can't even really get justice because he just gets randomly killed. Like, she never gets closure. She never really gets to feel good about herself. He just rapes her and gets killed. You have the little girl who's Whoopi Goldberg's daughter, who was, you know, on the way to have like a bright future, and she ends up getting pregnant and she has to go get a backdoor abortion, and she's just traumatized for life for that. Also, Whoopi Goldberg's character in the movie was crazy, and that is already traumatizing to have her as a mother. Okay, then you have you know, Kerry Washington's character. I guess that wasn't really traumatic. She just couldn't have kids. And Loretta Devine's character was okay. She just was dealing with a bum for like a guy that just kept popping in her life. But Janet Jackson's character, like her character, her husband was on the DL and then eventually gave her AIDS. Like, Tyler Perry love him a little AIDS storyline on the side, which just got me like, why do you like to punish your characters with AIDS? And even like that reveal of her finding out that he was gay is the most unserious thing I've ever seen in my life. And it became such a big meme on like a TikTok not too long ago with her talking about, oh, so you doing the bending. Like, why you have Miss Janet saying that? Why you had and Ghost pre-power doing this nonsense? Like, what was the point? And then you got Kimberly Elise, who not only had to deal with an abusive husband, but we had to watch her get her two kids dropped from the freaking sky and splattered on the ground. Sorry to get graphic, but I have to go there because that is trauma porn to me. Because what was the resolution? Nothing good came out of it. The lady lost the kids. The other one, you know, lost her husband technically and has, you know, an STD for life. The other girl scarred for like everybody. At the end of the movie, all they did was just recite a little poem, hug each other, and that's the end of the movie. Like, there is no, you don't feel warm and fuzzy after watching that movie. You don't feel good about yourself. It's horrible. Like, I'm so sorry, and I understand that it's based off of a play, and I think some of the monologues are amazing. Like Loretta Devine's monologue, one of hers in there is one of the best things, and that's part of the reason why I bought the actual book. But no, it wasn't meant to be a movie, I don't think. And especially the way that y'all decided to depict this. Like, it didn't give me anything that I didn't know. Black women go through bad stuff. That's all I got out of that, and I already knew that going into the film. So that's when I start to say things are trauma porn. When stuff is happening and there's no rhyme or reason and it's not really making any sense, and it's just like, what's the solution? I'm not entertained. It's not funny. It's not, you know, keeping me engaged. It's not teaching me anything I don't already know. So what is the point of this? You're just showing this traumatic thing for the sake of showing a traumatic thing. Whereas you have a movie like a Moonlight, where traumatic things happen to Chiron's character, right? For one, his mother is addicted to drugs, and he, you know, gets bullied a bit in the movie. And even the one friend in school that, you know, they have a romantic connection, but he hides it because, you know, homophobia, and, you know, they're forced to fight each other in school and all of that. Like, these are technically traumatic things happening, but I don't consider Moonlight a traumatic film or a Black trauma film, because that's not what this movie is about. This is just it's just a part of this character's life and their journey, because that's just what the movie is about. It's about Chiron and these several phases of life, and how does he grow from being a young guy and being an adult. Like, how do we get from A to B, basically, right? There's not necessarily a plot, it's just a journey. And these are just things that are happening to this character on this journey of life. That is it. It's not a Black trauma film. It's just traumatic things happen to this character. And it's never made to be a spectacle, because that's the other thing I think. Traumatic things happen, it's a spectacle. It's not really, I don't understand, like I said, it's not meant to be taken that deep. Like, you know, obviously you're gonna feel away because you're a human being, you have empathy, you're gonna feel like, and you're gonna empathize with this character, what they're going through, but it's not made to be like, okay, let's just blow this up. Because it could have been a movie about, okay, my mama's on drugs, that's the movie, period. Because that's a movie for somebody. That is the movie. My mother's on drugs and I gotta deal with her being on drugs. No. It's not that, right? You see, like, yes, that happens, and of course that has an effect on how Chiron approaches life and what happens to him, and that eventually he does technically become, or he does not technically, but he becomes a drug dealer himself, and all of that. But it's not meant to be made spectacle. And like I said, even a movie like A Set It Off, it's not a Black trauma film, obviously, because that's not what the movie is about. The movie is about these girls, they try to get this money, okay? And so, and they try to do it, you know, the nice way or legit way, but, you know, these people, you know, at the end of the day, because of the world we live in and capitalism, like, you can work and work and work and still never have enough. And so they rob a bank. And like I said, it's fun, it's a good time, but traumatic things happen. And that doesn't make the movie somehow bad. It doesn't make it somehow less of a fun movie to watch. I've been Set It Off a billion times. Every time it came on BET, I watched it. Okay? But you know what I'm saying? So I think at the end of the day, to really wrap this whole thing up, is that trauma is necessary most of the time in a film, especially if it's a film about Black life. It's really hard to depict Black life without a character evading some type of trauma. And while and so that's just what it is. Like it's like I said, it's like that's why it's funny. Like I said, you name all these films and call them feel good films, but traumatic things happen, and that is technically okay because these movies, the trauma of the character is not what makes the movie. What makes the movie is the actual plot of the movie, right? Trauma, like, you know what I'm saying? And so it's not a bad thing that a trauma happens. What makes it bad is when filmmakers or writers make films and they make a spectacle out of something and the intent gets lost. So whether the intent was to do something for Black people, it ends up getting lost because you're just doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff. And I hope I'm making sense here. But that's where the problem becomes, okay, I don't want to watch this now. And now it's getting too real. It's getting too real to the point where it's not even fun anymore. It's not escapism. It's hurt. Like it's traumatizing me. And so that's just where like a lot of us are at. And it's like I said, I can understand the groups of Black folks that are saying enough with this and that. And so even we were like enough with slave films. And I'm like, I don't even necessarily have a problem with a slave film, to be honest, because in the grand scheme of things, there's not been that many slave films, especially not in the past however many years now. It's been more, like I said, it's been more cop films than slave films. And I think that when it comes to the time period of slavery, there's so much that we have yet to uncover and know about that I'm not going to turn down a slave film if it is not, like, yes, obviously it's going to be traumatic, but there's still stories during that time that need to be told, still things we can learn because, of course, the American school system failed us. So I'm not opposed to seeing another slave film. You know what I mean? I get why people don't want to see that because it's painful and it's hard to remember that that is a thing, but I do think they're necessary. When they're written correctly and when the intent is clear, but or when they're written correctly and you can clearly see what the intent was behind the film, then I think that it's okay. But like I said, too often they don't, that something happens and we don't get that. And like I said, for me, the police thing, why I don't like it is because, like I said, we're still living in it and you're not offering no solutions. But I wouldn't 100% be closed off to a well thought out cop film. Like I told you, if Queen and Slim was like a Bonnie and Clyde and they were just out here just killing police officers, like that were doing like corrupt stuff like to Black folks, I would have been here for it. Like, you know what I mean? It's the same thing like a Django, where like here's a slave film technically, but it was a slave who got free and took revenge. Like that's fun. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, should a white man have made that movie? Absolutely not. But you know what I mean? So I think that's where a lot of it's where we're at with it. I think it's time for us to decipher the difference between what is a Black trauma, what is a traumatic thing that's happening to a Black character, because like I said, Black trauma, like I don't even like that phrase, because I just think like, what exactly do y'all mean when y'all say that? When y'all really want to say trauma porn, like that is what you're saying. You're not saying Black trauma. Because some things, yes, there are some things that are exclusive to just Black people in terms of traumatic elements, but what you are really talking about is racism. Like, and so, yeah, and I think obviously we need more Black filmmakers so that so that there's just a more variety, and so that everyone's not so pressured to make these race relations film that they think are going to win them awards, because those are the films that technically get the most acclaim and notoriety at award shows. But like, you know what I mean? Like, I just think that because if we had more and we had more opportunities, and like people wouldn't feel so pressured to make those type of films. And that's what we really need. We just need variety. We need more opportunities and stuff like that. But yeah, and I just think, like I said in my cop film conversation, it's just, you just gotta be, like, unfortunately, being a Black person and doing stuff like making movies and stuff like that and depicting Black life, you really have to be careful in how you are showing these characters, because obviously you don't want to adhere to certain stereotypes or make us look bad, but you also have to be aware that Black people are watching this film, and if we are your target audience, you want to keep in mind, like, how do you want Black folks to feel at the end of it? Like I said, there's no way Lena Waithe watched Queen and Slim. She is not, if she ever watched the video of mine, she gonna think I hate her, or she ain't never gonna talk to me. And it's like, I like The Shy. You know, I just hate that movie. I'm sorry. And I'm gonna slander it every chance I get. But you know, like, you just gotta be mindful. That's all. Like I said, unfortunately, like, I remember I was watching this documentary on Netflix I think it's called They Gotta Have Us, and they're talking about the history of black film and stuff. And I think it was Jesse Williams that was talking about, you know, white people could make movies about their dog. Like, here's a short film about a dog and how he got lost and found his way, or something to that effect. And that's just it. I just made it because I like dogs. But with black people, when we make stuff, it always has to be groundbreaking. It always has to say something deeper. And that's, you know, obviously that sucks, because black people should be able to make whatever the hell they want. But I think, obviously, one, black people should make what the hell they want. But when they want to make these films that are about racism, white supremacy, things that are very true to black life, they have to be very careful about what exactly they're putting on the screen, and what do we want to feel, and what do we want to think walking away from this film, and what does the aftercare look like, and all that. And I get when I'm supposed to, not every film is going to make you feel warm and fuzzy at the end, but at the same time, you have to understand why there's criticism there, because, like I said, there's no reason I should be watching a film when I'm trembling after watching it. There's just no way. Like, you know what I mean? But yeah, I just want, like I said, I want more black films. I want more interesting film. Like I said, last year we had so much good content. I think, you know, we had, like, you know, like I said, yeah, Concrete Cowboy and The Harder They Fall, and things like that. And even there was one movie I forgot to mention called Vacation Friends with Yvonne Orji and Lil Rel. And I thought that was excellent as well. I guess it wasn't like necessarily a black film, but there were two black protagonists, so, you know, it's black to me. But, you know, like that, or even, like I said, like The Photograph, like those, or that wasn't last year, it was the year before. But you know what I mean? Like, more movies like that. Like, I see more of those making a resurgence and stuff, especially because we have so much streaming platforms now, so there's a lot of opportunities there. But like I said, enough with the trauma porn films. That's what we like. All right, whatever. But like I said, don't be so closed off to a film because a character is going through a traumatic element or something traumatic is happening. Because like I said, it's hard to just not do that. But you know, just, you know, it's just make sure there's a difference. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just make sure you differentiate the two before you completely say black trauma. Like, it's trauma porn. That's what that is. But a movie like Set It Off is not trauma porn, obviously, but you know what I mean. So that's just a conversation I just wanted to have. Y'all just let me know all your thoughts and opinions. What are some feel-good black films that you enjoy? Let me know down in the comments. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll definitely see y'all in my next video. Peace out, y'all.